We'll take a stroll through where there used to be a neighborhood. I host a clinic called The Finer Points of Settlerhood. Wish I could say it brings a crowd. Oh baby doll, doomsday went about as well as you said it would. God, I tried to love the bomb and never could. There's such a heavy bomb in the humid air of rotted wood. Wish I could clear the smoke and show you clouds. The meek will get the earth, though the earth will be long dead. The meek will gladly take what we can get. And when we meet the earth, if there's no earth to be found, we'll just join the poison in the ground. Whoa, 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 the poison in the ground. Whoa, the poison in the ground. Whoa, the poison in the ground. Whoa, the poison in the
Where's that new modern style? Where's that new beat? They promised something wild, then gassed us in our sleep. We woke up underground and forced to earth the minds, and only have these tired songs to last us for all time. We had a stack of wax and some of it was fine, and a player in the break room where we went to flush our eyes. Lasted all of 7 months, and when it finally died, the only source of music was your dusty, empty mind. And I said, oh my God, I don't miss the light. Oh my God, I don't miss the sunshine, my sweet God. But I miss all the songs that used to make me feel alive. Some of us disappeared down deeper in the mine. One came back, I guess the rest we're just not meant to find. We stopped him screaming and we held him as he cried. I saw what's out the hatch and we're all better off inside. Oh my God, I don't miss the light. Oh my God, I don't miss the sunshine, my sweet God. But I miss all the songs that used to make me feel alive. Oh my God, oh, I don't miss the light. Oh my God, yeah, and I never miss the sunshine, my sweet God. But I miss all the songs that used to make me feel alive.
Boom, la 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 la. 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 Boom, la 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 la. Well, my neck was a little straighter. 7 years without a screen. Wandering the waste in case I'd end up someplace green. I'd been pushing my luck up like daisies, chasing my fate, crawling through the aqueducts or cutting through the gates. Now Margot showed herself as though an angel from above. She offered me a hand on which she wore a heavy glove. And all of my survival skills I picked up at her side. For bless her heart, she kept me like a helpless child bride. But when we reached the checkpoint, they asked to show her poems. She opened up a garden and she was gone. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. She was gone. La 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 la. La 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 a trail of broken men. I found her with a body. She had killed a man for gloves. She handed me some water and I drank it down like drugs. But when we reached the platform, they asked to scan her hands. She tore the guard to shreds and she ran. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. I caught up with her quickly, but I'm stuck with what I saw. The blood that ran across the sand was pooling off her claws. She didn't know I'd seen her hands, and I won't leave my love. So I let her keep her secrets and keep her stocked with gloves. My huntress stalks the sheep that walk beneath the starless skies. My Margot has the kind of touch that flays a man alive. She said it was fine back the other way. I wish I could have stayed behind, but maybe it was time for our luck to change, and I might have to wait a while. She said travel is difficult, you can't go home, and trust me, you don't really wanna go. But meantime, I had the feeling I'd have sold my soul just for one more minute there alone. To think I'd walk out the door and see the grass still grows, walk into the stream and feel the flow. But somehow I had the feeling I just can't go home. La 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 la. Well, she said it was fine back the other way. I wish I could have stayed behind, but maybe it was time for our luck to change, and I might have to wait a while. She said travel is difficult, you can't go home, and trust me, you don't really wanna go. But meantime, I had the feeling I'd have sold my soul just for one more minute there alone. To think I'd walk out the door and see the grass still grows, walk into the stream and feel the flow. But somehow I had the feeling I just can't go home. La, 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 la. I had the feeling I just can't go home. I had the feeling I just can't go home. I had the feeling I just can't go home. I'm a child of a God of age, and not the only one. My mama raised me off of stories about the sun, 'cause it was gone. All that she would tell, it was gone. la la la.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Hi, everybody. I'm back. We're back. It's Indy. Of course, everybody in chat probably knows that already. It's Tuesday night, so it's time for Indie News Now Live. And I've got another long lineup of stuff to show you and to read. And we're going to do something that I don't normally do, which is to really break down a Psyop from all different sides, which is going to be fun. But in the meantime, I was really happy to bring the Geiger Age from Jesse Jet. Go check that out and download it for free or for name your own price at jessejet.bandcamp.com. Let me put that up one more time in the chats. I host Jesse Jet's show, American Tradition, every last Thursday night of the month on Indie News Network, where we're currently streaming this broadcast right now, or whatever you want to go live stream. We're on Indie News Network on 7 different platforms. We're on Indie Media Today over on Substack. Thank you for everyone that's watching over there. So jessejet.bandcamp.com. So that's where you can get all the music and support Jesse. And we'll be live on Thursday night for a brand new American Tradition. I can't wait. It's been a month and I don't even know what we're going to do yet. So that's going to be fun. Tune in. And tonight, we are going to first start. I'm going to read this Whitney Webb article that she just published the other day or yesterday, and it's long. It's like 45 minutes. I'm warning you all. It says that it's a 45-minute read. I'm probably going to stop. I'm probably going to comment. It may take a little longer. But on top of that, I started off by saying Bibi's alive. I do want to break down the psyop of what has been happening since the 8th of March. Is he, isn't he, does it matter? And we're going to break it down from a bunch of different angles. We're going to bring all the AI videos, and I want to hear what other people think about that. And then we're going to talk also about how much Iran is trolling Trump and Netanyahu or Trump and Israel right now with these videos that they've been making. So I brought a couple of those to show. We've got a lightning round that's got a couple of ICE segments and talking about some of the things that ICE is still up to, because we haven't forgotten about that. And in the meantime, support independent media because we need it more than ever. The ways to do that are on that board. The fastest, easiest way, Cash App, $ Indie News Network. And then if you do co-fi.com/Indie News Network, it'll pop something up on screen. Sean the Accord Lord did that last week. PayPal.me/Indie News Network will also hook us up with friends and family, so no fees over there. Monthly, you can do patreon.com/Indie News Network. And then we have a website called IndieNewsNow.com. It's the name of the show. It's also a website that aggregates over 100 different news sources. So you can get Whitney Webb articles and access to a ton of different content from anti-war and Common Dreams. Actually, I think we turned off Common Dreams. They push a lot of content. All the INN channels, Descent in Bloom, a lot of Substack publications and smaller ones that you wouldn't necessarily see, all vetted and all independent. And that's the whole idea, is that it is ad-free and completely independent and links directly to their site, so you can support them and subscribe to them as well. And that's the whole idea. We want to amplify independent media here. So the way, again, and IndieMediaToday.com, we're live over there. That's over at Substack. INN Newsletter is another newsletter that I publish for the network that I am a member of. So you can support and subscribe over there too. Okay. So we're going to also talk about, there was one thing also on the lineup, Iran trolling. Oh, Lebanon. I didn't want to forget Lebanon. Lebanon is being Gazified, even more so than Cuba. Cuba's in an earlier stage where they're blockading and they're stopping aid from getting in completely. But Lebanon, we've got a couple of articles to show what's happening over there. So thank you to anybody that does hook it up. Really, really appreciate it. Let me just send one live right now that I just wanted to let somebody know. And we can get to reading the article that Whitney published about Les Wexner and Ohio, because it's fascinating. I went through it, and I want to go through it here, because I think a lot of people skim it, or they don't necessarily read through it, and we're going to read through it. Yes, Angel Israel is doing the Greater Israel Project, and nobody seems to be stopping them, and that's the problem. All right, Technate, Ohio. How Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein built the Silicon Heartland. Okay, so this is the blueprint that lays out where all these different companies are in relation to, I believe one of these is his compound. Okay, but where all these different tech companies are located now, at least have an office. Ohio has become the new destination for big tech data centers and AI infrastructure. The state owes much of its rapid transformation to the so-called Silicon Heartland, to the now vast array of public-private partnerships pioneered by the state's richest man, Leslie Wexner, and his former money manager and fixer, we know his name, Jeffrey Epstein. And this is by Whitney and by Mark Goodwin. Also, don't want to forget to mention Mark. They co-wrote this together. So I'm gonna start. Let's blow this up a little bit so everybody can read it with me. That early last year, shortly after Trump took office for his second term, former presidential candidate, we know this guy, Vivek Ramaswamy, announced that he was departing the recently formed the Department of Government Efficiency. Remember, he was number 2 at Doge underneath Elon. All right, after reports of conflict with the department's co-head, Elon Musk. Vivek joined Fox News to clarify these rumors and to tease his next endeavor, holding public office. And he ran for governor, I believe. Vivek noted Musk's approach was a technology approach, whereas his was focused more on constitutional law, legislative-based approach. Okay, whatever that meant. But he further explained that when you're talking about constitutional revival, it's not just done through the federal government, it's done through federalism, where states also lead the way. Okay. Despite their differences, Ramaswamy importantly remarked that they were both on the same page, sure they are, and that their attempts in saving the country required them to divide and conquer. Okay, so that's his excuse to say, look, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go do the state thing because there's plenty of room out there for all of us to do our thing, and he'll make plenty of money. And remember, he's already made millions doing basically nothing. Okay? Himbo, you lie. All right? You do not live in Ohio, sir. All right? Descent in Blue does live in Ohio. That's funny. All right. Toward the end of the interview, Vivek mentioned that he was flying back to Ohio that week with an announcement regarding his expressed intention of pushing for reform at the state level, coming shortly. The former presidential hopeful explained that when we look at the country over the last 20 years, he's such a slimeball. He tries to be Caramel Obama in so many ways, but for the right. All right. Over the last 20 years, Silicon Valley was at the bleeding edge of the American economy. I think the Ohio River Valley can be at the bleeding edge of the American economy for the next 20 years. A few weeks later, Vivek's gubernatorial campaign for Ohio was announced, and the former Doge co-head was promptly endorsed by Trump. Over the course of that campaign, Vivek's fortunes have quite literally soared. What a shock. Since launching, he's not only come to command a massive campaign war chest filled by deep-pocketed donors, but his own net worth has doubled. And again, anywhere you see an underline here, there's a receipt to some link somewhere. Now, in this case, his doubled net worth goes to a Forbes article that talks about that. All right, the campaign war chest is from notus.org. The thing from a few weeks later is from the BBC. So a lot of this stuff is sourced. While many once labeled this campaign as a clear demotion for Vivek, the reality of an emerging Ohio specifically as it relates to the technocratic goals of the Trump admin and its donors, most importantly, paints a very different picture. As noted in Ian Davis's book, The Technocratic Dark State, which, by the way, is published, I believe, by Whitney and Mark's publishing company, Doge, which is the agency that Ramaswamy co-led, is part of a larger effort led largely by a small group of the ultra-wealthy to completely privatize the public sector in the name of greater efficiency and have it ruled by techno kings or dictator CEOs. This is like, what's the thing in Ecuador, the Prospera that they're trying to build. All right, I'm sure she'll get to Prospera at some point. Ian Davis frames this as a modern iteration of technocracy, bolstered by tech billionaires with close ties to the Trump admin, such as Musk and the evil snake reptile Peter Thiel. The reptile, by the way, is an anagram for his name, Peter Thiel. Not saying, just saying. Thiel is the longtime benefactor of Ohio Congressman and current Vice President J.D. Vance. Steve Poikonen refers to him as J.D. Vance as Peter Thiel's golf glove. Notably, Ohio's richest man, Leslie Wexner, of course, I'll say, okay, along with help from the infamous Jeffrey Epstein, a Thiel associate, has spent decades creating partnerships where private interests, including those he directly controls, dominate its state and local governments. In some cases, such as the Columbus suburb of New Albany, they've completely replaced them. All right. Quietly over the last decade, Ohio has become a state of incredible national importance as it continues to attract data centers from American royalty, quote unquote, and big tech stalwarts into its friendly regulatory borders. But long before Amazon, Meta, Anduril, which, by the way, just finished a plant 3 months early, Microsoft, and others took their power hungry and literally and figuratively, how much juice they suck up, she'll probably mention that too, refuge in the Buckeye State. The most well-known financier of Jeffrey Epstein, Leslie Wexner, and his extensive crime-linked network were laying the foundation for the new Silicon Valley, now known as the Silicon Heartland, along the Ohio River. That's where they're getting the water that they need. Wexner's own statements last year underscore Ohio's coming importance in the age of ascendant AI-powered technocracy. Last May, he stated that Columbus in particular would soon become an international AI destination. He also asserted that probably the largest AI investment in the world will happen in Columbus. Wexner would know, as he's personally responsible for Ohio's, or specifically Columbus's, rise as one of the most important AI hubs in the country. Yet, Wexner, with Epstein's help, has done much more than attract massive AI data centers to the state. As this investigation is going to show, Wexner and his closest allies, Epstein among them, but much more than just Epstein, worked to create a model for the takeover of local governments via these public-private partnerships, starting first in New Albany, beginning in the late 1980s. It's since spread to cover the entire state of Ohio via a network of public-private partnerships that Wexner helped create. How convenient. This system has allowed Wexner to use billions of dollars of Ohio taxpayer money with little to no public scrutiny to finance what can only be described as a massive welfare system for corporations. Among that system's current biggest beneficiaries are, naturally, Wexner's New Albany company. So he's paying himself back for all the investment and all the time and all the connections, as well as massive big tech corporations with important ties to Epstein, like Amazon, and Google. Sure. Also multi-trillion-dollar corporations. Meanwhile, regular Ohioans are seeing their power bills jump, provoking an affordability crisis in the state, while funding for public schools, libraries, and healthcare is cut dramatically. Go figure. All to keep the corporate welfare engine designed by Wexner running full tilt. And the money is only funneling really one way. So here she gets into how he helped build New Albany. The New Albany Company was founded in 1986 by none other than Leslie Wexner, Ohio's wealthiest man, and his longtime associate, John, or they call him Jack, Kessler. The company was initially housed at the same address as other Wexner-linked companies on the 37th floor of Columbus's Huntington Center. Their landlord, Gerald Hines, was a Houston-based real estate developer and chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas from 1981 to 1983. I'm sure that's going to become significant. As noted in her book, One Nation Under Blackmail, which you should have already on your shelves, Hines's real estate and other interests were enmeshed with those of the Bush family, as they're from Houston, as well as arms trafficker Adnan Khashoggi, an early client of and alleged mentor to Jeffrey Epstein during the 1980s. Yes, father of the one and only Jamal Khashoggi. According to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the decision to create New Albany took place when Kessler and Wexner were cruising in Les's Land Rover near New Albany. The pair saw acre after acre of empty farmland, and thus the billionaire, getting a vision thing, declared to his buddy, "This will be my new home." That same report also declared that the pair, after forming the New Albany Company, quote, spun off a bunch of paper corporations to cover their footprints. Then their minions knocked on doors and made the proverbial offers that you couldn't refuse. What was once the village of New Albany is now a, again, unique public-private partnership between the New Albany Company, a private company, and the city of New Albany, the local government. Kessler told Columbus CEO in 2014, that's a magazine, that the New Albany Company has always had a very close working relationship with the city, whose leaders are very pro-development as a result. I'm guessing that the candidates that run for council in New Albany are probably people that he supports and funds. The New Albany Company, soon after its creation, developed a master plan for the town's growth and aesthetics that has been strictly adhered to since its founding. As with most public-private partnerships, the public sector in New Albany is largely subservient to its private partner, which of course is for profit, naturally. Wexner and Kessler may have wanted to exert such extensive control over this influential Columbus suburb for other reasons, too. And why would that be? Shortly before the New Albany Company was created, both Wexner and Kessler found themselves under investigation for ties to the mob-style murder of Arthur Shapiro, who was due to testify to the IRS just days after his murder. Go figure. That's a weird coincidence. Shapiro had been the lawyer for Wexner's company, The Limited, and was involved in its finances. So, one way to ensure that he would be unable to testify under oath would be to somehow arrange for or be involved with or somehow something involved with a mob-style murder, which is what is being insinuated here. He was murdered via mob-style murder. Whether Wexner was connected is alleged and unknown. In investigating Shapiro's death, there was some conjecture that Shapiro was in a position to provide information to the IRS grand jury that would have been damaging to some other party. I can't imagine who. Columbus police then determined that Wexner was enmeshed with organized crime interests. Oh boy, that's a bad thing. However, of course, the investigation into Wexner and any linkages to organized crime were halted, and the police documentation from that investigation were heavily suppressed by the Columbus chief of police at the time, James Jackson. Sure, because they're going to start to control all of it. When the documents later became accidentally public via FOIA request, Jackson was surprised and remarked that, "I thought I got rid of it," with respect to the documents in question. Oops, sorry about that. Wouldn't getting rid of it actually constitute a crime? So, all right, those documents will be referred to as the Shapiro murder file for the remainder of this article. Okay, so here's an article that she had written about the Arthur Shapiro homicide from beforehand. Okay, by the late 80s, Epstein, who then had crept into Wexner's inner circle, had become a general partner in New Albany's real estate holding company, New Albany Property. I wonder how that happened, and had to put at least a few $1 million into the project himself. Former State of Ohio Inspector David Sturtz reportedly claimed that Epstein was Shapiro's replacement. In addition, local Ohio reporter Bob Fitrakis told New York Magazine in 2002 that Epstein had been a crucial part of the New Albany project, which I don't think is much of a surprise. But before Epstein came along in 1988, the financial preparations and groundwork for the New Albany development were a total mess. Epstein cleaned everything up, as well as serving Wexner in other capacities. Petrakis also stated that New Albany's success had required significant changes to be made to the Columbus city policy as well as zoning laws. As attested to in the Shapiro murder file, this appears to have been accomplished by questionable investments made by a Wexner-controlled entity in a jazz club run by former city council member Jeremy Hammond. I know that name, unless it's just a coincidence. Alongside his successor on the council, Les Wright. There's going to be a lot of names that we're going to talk here. It might get a little confusing, but hopefully we'll be able to pull it all back together. The file also details circumstantial evidence that Hammond was able to make payments on luxury assets and goods well above his salary, which was suggestive of bribes. Of course there would be. That's kind of how mob tactics work, if you're going to use them. As luck would have it for Les Wexner, Hammond became swept up in an emotional debate about the Wexley Luxury Housing Project, which was a reference to the New Albany project in 1988, and was accused of selling out the city's and public's interests for Wexner's benefit, because it was true. New Albany, thanks in large part to Hammond and Wright, was able to secure its desired changes to local policy. Of course they were, because that's where money talks, and that's unfortunately in the end usually what happens. However, the accusations that New Albany's projects and ambitions were acting in defiance of existing state and local laws would continue for years. All right, and this is 8 pages of this investigation, including a diagram laying out how all these people link together. All right. And again, I'm reading the Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin piece from Unlimited Hangout. Go read this yourself at unlimitedhangout.com. Totally free. Subscribe monthly. It's $5 a month. Support independent media. In 1990, Epstein acquired property in New Albany via a Wexner-controlled trust, with the house being widely reported as a gift from Wexner to Epstein. Epstein resigned from the trust and bought the home, which he owned from 1994 until 2007, when he and Wexner publicly cut ties after Epstein's first arrest that same year. That's when he went to prison in Florida. However, recent releases have shown the two men stayed in contact for years after. And that's what the Epstein files are showing she's talking about. Epstein subsequently sold the house in New Albany back to the Wexners that year for a reported $0. Makes sense, since he was gifted the house in the first place. That way they pay no property taxes and they just go back and forth with it. In 1992, Epstein obtained another property in New Albany, this time via a trust linked to the other partner, John Kessler. Former Epstein employee Maria Farmer filed a lawsuit alleging that she was attacked by Epstein at the property in 1996 and that Wexner's security prevented her from leaving the home for close to 12 hours. A Washington Post report confirmed that Wexner's security team monitored the home when Epstein owned it. Epstein then sold this property in 1998 to a company called HHD&B LLC, which has the same mailing address as the New Albany company, suggesting again that they were connected. How much did he sell that for, I wonder? That same year, Epstein was listed as co-president alongside Leslie Wexner of New Albany Company. So now what happened to John Kessler by 1998? Interesting. Beginning in the early 90s, Epstein was also president of the New Albany-based NA Property Inc., which early records also refer to as part of the Wexner Investment Company. Later records show that it also had used the name of the New Albany Investment Company as well as New Albany Investments. So they're using different variations of the name to create different holding companies that have completely different tax ID numbers and operate theoretically completely separate from each other, even though they're all technically linked. This is shell companies and holding companies, etc. The Wexner Foundation later referred to Epstein's role as president at NA Property as being one of his Wexner-related roles, because when they have all these shell companies, somebody's got to be an officer or a secretary or somebody as part of a board member for some nonsense. Okay? Though the Wexner Foundation claims that Epstein resigned from that role in 2007, he wasn't technically removed as the company agent until 2008, while he's going through trial and about to go to prison. Despite Wexner's previous claims that Epstein stole his money and that they had broken off all association the year prior, again, recent releases have shown that Wexner was still in communication with Epstein during that time. And they were still doing business. He wasn't just like, hey, where's my money? According to a 2002 New York Magazine profile, that's before 2007, obviously, Epstein maintained a branch of his financial advisory firm in New Albany. This article notes that, or the article she's referencing in New York Magazine notes that Epstein's presence in the Columbus suburb was incredibly strong in 2002, and that Epstein's staff for his financial advisory firm were spread between Manhattan, New Albany, and Little St. James / Big Great St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The report notes that he had reincorporated this company as Financial Trust Co., based in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Financial Trust Co. and its successor, Southern Trust, were alleged by USVI authorities to have served as cover for Epstein's illicit activities, Southern Airlines. Southern Trust later became intimately involved with the use of AI in financial markets, with goals to expand into healthcare, like maybe what a techno what do you want to call that? Transhumanism. That's the word I'm thinking of. It's unknown how long Epstein's Financial Trust Co. and its precursor maintained its New Albany branch, though it's likely related to the aforementioned NA Property / New Albany Investment Company. It's just a matter of which shell they decided to hide it under, right? Which, as noted above, which was also an entity connected directly to Wexner. So, like, it doesn't really matter because it all ends up flowing upwards to one person. And it's this guy through this guy. You know this guy, right? All right, and that's his wife, Abigail Wexner, by the way, in the middle. In the years that followed Epstein's supposed break from Wexner, records show that Gary Kearney, the former CEO of the New Albany Company Limited Partnership, yet another shell company, managed multiple Epstein properties, so it's very incestuous, where they all know and trust each other and are managing multiple companies and shells and wear different roles and hats and can hide there. The two men had met in New Albany via their roles at the New Albany Company. So effectively, so Gary Kearney was the former CEO of New Albany Limited Partnership, managed New Albany properties, Epstein properties, including the ones in New Mexico. We talked about that one, that's Zorro Ranch, and the USVI, that would be Epstein Island, or the Little Great St. James and Little St. James. So the two men had met in New Albany via their roles at the company. Kearney started managing properties for Epstein at least as early as 1999. Roughly a decade later, in 2009, Kearney recruited Stephen Kaplinger, the former New Albany Director of Planning and Design, to help Epstein further develop Little St. James, the infamous island in the Virgin Islands. That same year, Kearney was listed as the island's construction manager and was one of 4 people, including Epstein himself, that had an affiliated credit card. So he clearly was well trusted. According to reports by 2010, Kearney was making roughly $368,000 in change per year between his salary, housing stipend, and travel costs. This would then make him Epstein's second highest paid employee at the time. Kearney wasn't the island's only long-term connection to New Albany either, as the island was insured by the New Albany-based insurance office, Central Ohio, through at least March 2019. Epstein's extensive ties to New Albany, as detailed above, lend credence to Ghislaine Maxwell's more recent statements to Todd Blanche, the current Deputy Attorney General, that Epstein ran New Albany for much of the time she was affiliated with him, despite Wexner's repeated downplaying of this role. So here we go, how we get from Silicon Valley to the Silicon Heartland. How do you get all of these Silicon Valley guys to want to build in the middle of nowhere in New Albany, Ohio? Sorry, dissent, but that's where it is. All right. In the decades after Wexner, Kessler, and Epstein first dug in, New Albany has since emerged as the premier locale in the United States for the booming data center industry. In 2014, the first notable data center moved into the Ohio River Valley, with Compass Data Centers spending $60 million to place 5 data centers on a 9.2-acre parcel of land within New Albany Business Park. The New Albany Business Park is especially relevant to Wexner, as it's also owned by his New Albany company. It's also home to Wexner-linked corporate data centers, including his Abercrombie and Fitch. Shortly after Compass Data Centers joined the neighborhood, Amazon Web Services was built 3 campuses in New Albany, followed by Meta, then they were still called Facebook at the time, and Google, now called Alphabet, each adding a campus in New Albany. So now there's like a gold rush. It's monkey see, monkey do in the tech industry, as our friend Kelly Albertine will tell you. Compass Data Centers expanded their operations into Canada and, of course, Israel in 2019. Fuck Israel. With the latter coming to fruition through a partnership with Amazon Web Services after the Azrieli Group purchased a 20% stake in the company. The Azrieli Group was founded by Canadian tycoon David Azrieli and went on to become the largest IPO ever on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange in 2010. It has since grown into Israel's largest commercial real estate developer. I wonder how they feel about return to office policy. I'll bet I know. The Azrieli Group is a known partner of another Canadian family dynasty, the Bronfmans, who boast significant ties to both Wexner and Epstein and have been alleged to be involved in a lot of the illicit operations. As it stands today, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta all have data centers or commitments to build data centers within New Albany, Ohio. It's almost like they're buying off their, favor with somebody or something, allegedly. In addition to the data centers, Central Ohio has also welcomed a commitment from Intel to build one of the largest semiconductor factories in the world. This decision was made in no small part due to the state offering nearly $2 billion in incentives and tax breaks for the California-based Intel, including a 30-year tax break approved by state legislators, allowing Intel to save $650 million on the backs of tax-paying Ohioans, by the way. In February of 2026, just last month, Intel announced delays until 2030 regarding this project. Of course. New Albany executives have described the Intel deal and the influx of big tech data centers as necessary to establish the Silicon Heartland in Ohio with New Albany at its center. They're also going to drain the Ohio River, would be my guess, but that's my prediction. So here is a map of all the different development and all the size of the locations. And there you've got Amgen. That's a biotech stock. And there's his Abercrombie and Fitch, Voyant, and Reiki, and Lukta, Cupertino Electric, Cyrus One. You've got a lot of organizations beyond just the ones that we mentioned. L Brands, that's another Wexner organization. Hims, they're like they send out Viagra style pills, pharmaceuticals to cover a certain problem. So again, I'm reading Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin's article about Central Ohio, New Albany, and the tech center that's being built there and how it happened. So you can go read this again over at unlimitedhangout.com. Incidentally, Wexner and the New Albany company played an intimate role in helping seal the Intel deal in Ohio. Again, not really incidentally. I think that's tongue-in-cheek. It was representatives of the New Albany company who approached the once quiet town of Johnstown, offering to pay up front for hundreds of acres in and around town. They paid well over market rate, and many sold their properties for over $1 million, though they had to sign non-disclosure agreements with the New Albany company to lock in those prices. I wonder how Whitney got that info. I guess it's public record. A few months after these deals were finalized, it was announced that Intel was planning to build its new semiconductor factories in that exact area. It, meaning the Intel deal, wouldn't have happened without them, said the CEO of Jobs Ohio, the state's private economic development group. All right. Look, pay attention to that organization and keep your eyes on that. Jobs Ohio, incidentally, had secured a $150 million grant that paid for the land for the Intel facilities, which formed part of an incentive package from the state of Ohio, totaling that over $2 billion. So the state gave it through this organization. I'm sure they took their cut off the top because they usually do. Jobs Ohio is a controversial dark money organization, and that's discussed in a detail later. We'll discuss that in detail later, which is good. Told you we're already 40 minutes in. We might have to break this up into two, but we'll get there. Like other tax incentives prepared by the state to benefit Wexner-connected business deals, Ohioans are unlikely to reap any of the alleged benefits that they'll receive. Indeed, with New Albany's data center growth long promoted as essential to the economic well-being of state residents, most Ohioans have instead received only engorged electricity bills so far, despite the billions in taxpayer-funded incentives that these large tech conglomerates have received. Yeah, but that yes, and they're still going to pass that on to the consumers because they're going to drain the data center, they're going to drain the power plants. While Ohioans are turning out in record numbers to oppose building even more data centers, Ohio state legislators have responded by introducing legislations to create a new commission that would help dispel inaccurate myths about bringing more data centers into the state. Particularly, data centers planned to be built on land developed by, guess who, Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein's, and that was the state's New Albany company, because I'm sure that his estate still retains ownership in that organization. Some of those shell companies, those holding companies. In addition to Wexner's direct ties to bringing big tech giants to New Albany, there is also an important possibility that Epstein himself helped sow the seeds for their presence in the Wexner-dominated Columbus suburb as well. For instance, during the time that Epstein was intimately involved with New Albany and allegedly ran it for Wexner, he was the main and some years the only donor to the Edge Foundation. The Edge Foundation, beginning in 1999, was the host of the influential Billionaires' Dinner, in which Epstein was involved from its inception. Sounds like he created it specifically for this. From 2001 to 2017, overlapping several years with Epstein's deep involvement in New Albany, Epstein funded over $600,000 out of the total of $857,000 raised by Edge during that period. That's like 3/4 of the money. Subsequent reports have alleged that Edge's billionaire dinner was an influence operation run for Epstein's benefit, which would make a lot of sense. Notable attendees of these dinners at the time that Epstein was Edge's most influential donor include several of the founders of major big tech companies that installed themselves at New Albany during and shortly after that period of time. These founders include Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Google co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page. Again, all with CIA contracts. Bezos developed close ties to Epstein's fixer, Ghislaine Maxwell, while Brin and Page were both subpoenaed as part of the Virgin Islands case against J.P. Morgan regarding the bank's alleged facilitation of Epstein's sex trafficking activities. Alleged. These subpoenas were issued because Epstein allegedly led the Google co-founders to bank with J.P. Morgan, and Epstein helped advise Brin on structuring trusts for his children. Well, that's pretty interesting. I believe this might be the billionaire's dinner that's being discussed. This is an image released from the Epstein files from a 2015 dinner hosted by Reid Hoffman and Peter Thiel, which Epstein attended. And I see Elon Musk there. That looks like Sundar Pichai, maybe from Google, from Microsoft. There's Zuckerberg right there. There's the robot, and Priscilla Chan, his wife. I don't know who that is off the top of my head, nor that. Anyway, in addition, Epstein attended a 2015 dinner meeting brokered by Reid Hoffman and Peter Thiel, which you just saw the picture above, where Zuckerberg of Meta, Facebook, was in attendance. Thiel was considerably close to Epstein during this time and beyond, and was also an extremely influential early investor in and board member of Meta and Facebook. That was actually documented in the movie The Social Network. Thiel's Epstein ties, combined with Zuckerberg's own meeting with Epstein, could have played a role in Meta's decision to establish a presence in Wexner-dominated New Albany in 2017. So basically, if Thiel told Zuckerberg, who at that point had already become insanely wealthy, that he should build a data center in New Albany, Zuckerberg's going to listen. Last year, Meta announced that they would build yet another data center, promoted as the highest capacity data center in the world in Wexner's fiefdom. Guess who's getting paid rent on all this property? Guess who's getting a share of the property taxes because of the New Albany Corporation? I think we're going to talk about that now. So this is how he designed the Ohio corporate welfare system funded by the taxpayers. So he's funneling these grants, which are out there and legal, but the question is, how did they get on the ballot and how did they get allowed and issued in the first place? The question thus remains, why Central Ohio? New Albany was hardly a formidable city before Wexner and Epstein located their business dealings there, with a population of just over 1,500 citizens in 1990. It was small. By 2000, it had grown to just over 4,000. That's more than doubling in 10 years. That's significant growth. And since then has seen 180% growth, leaving the small but powerful suburb of Columbus sitting at a population of around 11,000 people today. New Albany, yeah, that's a pretty substantial sized town at 11,000. Reporting from Data Center Frontier in 2024 speculates as to why this region was chosen to house so many data centers. Historically, this parallel was of systemic importance to the Union Pacific Railroad system and fiber providers such as AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, and more, which all ran their broadband cables alongside the rails of the first transcontinental railroad. According to a LinkedIn post by current Oracle employee and former program manager of Microsoft's Cloud Developer Services, George Moore, this fiber optic infrastructure provides the data centers with unprecedented access to the absolute highest bandwidth in a virtuous cycle of investment. More data centers drive more traffic, which drives more fiber optic cables, which drives more data centers. It becomes this vicious cycle. And of course, the data centers are eating up power and water and resources. Not to remain a speculative theory, this flywheel of data center buildouts pushed by fiber optic growth, as described by Moore, has driven Ohio to become a leading state for data centers. According to reports from datacentermap.com, Ohio is currently home to 193 data centers, making it just the fourth-ranked state in the country, behind Virginia, Texas, and California, which are, in two cases, much larger states than Ohio, obviously, by land. Ohio now boasts more data centers than its neighboring states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Indiana combined. Well, over half of those data centers are situated in, well over half are situated in central Ohio, with 121 and counting just in the Columbus, New Albany area alone. They decided to have everyone build there so that they could profit from it. And that's what we're going to figure out how they did it. Unsurprisingly, the New Albany company views itself as being central to Ohio's transformation. And are they using this? Are they going to try to use this as a model to expand out into more of Ohio? For instance, the company's current CEO, Bill Ebbing, told Forbes that, quote, the establishment of the Silicon Heartland in New Albany will redefine Ohio's economic future, providing generational job opportunities while helping to reduce the country's dependence on foreign manufacturing of semiconductors, referencing the Intel planned New Albany-based plant that's now been delayed, by the way, till at least 2030, while they already are reaping massive tax benefits. As a result of New Albany's efforts, Ohio has now taken center stage as the hub of the Midwest Semiconductor Network, or the MSN. That network is notably led by Ohio State University, which of course naturally is deeply connected to one and only Les Wexner and fueled by federal investment through the Biden-era CHIPS and Science Act. Public-private partnership. God, fuck these guys. Like I said, Biden was red, Trump was blue, Trump is red, Biden. They have the same policies. They support the same people. It isn't just federal taxpayer funds that are fueling the construction of the Silicon Heartland, right where Wexner conveniently wields such power. All right. Another reason for Ohio becoming the epicenter for data centers is because of the unprecedented ways in which Ohio's private sector, led of course by Wexner-led entities, has been able to divert Ohio taxpayer funds to heavily subsidize the development of the state's Silicon Heartland. So here we go with this development company. After remaking what was once the village of New Albany into a public-private partnership under his control, Wexner turned his sights to the far larger neighboring city of Columbus, the Ohio state capital. In 2002, Wexner and Kessler teamed up with the longtime publisher on the Columbus Dispatch, John Wolfe, to create the Columbus Partnership. It's worth noting that Wolfe was very enmeshed with Wexner, serving on the board of the Wexner Center Foundation from 1990 to 2016. Wexner then chaired the Columbus Partnership for nearly 20 years and stepped down in 2021. He's now basically stepped back mostly from private life. He's also like 90. He's not that old, but he's pretty damn old. The partnership describes itself as a nonprofit organization of CEOs from Columbus's leading businesses and institutions. But in reality, it is the de facto economic development authority for the Columbus region, which includes 11 counties in and around the city. How did they get that? In fact, when the Columbus Partnership created Columbus 2020, which later became One Columbus, which is now the official economic development group of the entire Columbus region. One Columbus is also, conveniently, a public-private partnership largely funded by private corporations with significant presence in Ohio, including a lot of businesses that guess who recruited to be there. JP Morgan and Honda and AT&T and Bank of America, and of course, L Brands, the Wexner-controlled parent company of the Limited. This guy feels like Mr. Burns in every way, shape, and form. Several of its current investors are the big tech firms like Amazon, who've become deeply entrenched in Wexner's New Albany. One Columbus also developed the local government's current economic roadmap, which is aggressively focused on economic growth benefiting its corporate partnerships. Remember, profits over people all the time. One Columbus's partnership with local governments in the area has allowed them to offer the companies that they court, many of which are foreign-owned, large incentive packages that are funded by public money. Several of the businesses they court moved to New Albany. These companies are attracted by these generous taxpayer-funded incentives, then purchase commercial real estate, most often from, how convenient, Wexner's New Albany company, which he then turns a healthy profit for. And then his company's going to collect fees and taxes and profit from having a sanitation service and everything else. Let's see what else he provides. The use of over-the-top incentives for corporate relocation to Columbus has been engineered by Wexner many times in the past, such as in the Wexner-backed effort to bring the CIA-linked Southern Air Transport to Columbus in the 1990s. Again, she's going to discuss that later in this article, too. Ultimately, the creation of the Columbus Partnership, or One Columbus, allowed him to both formalize and normalize arrangements like this that were once the product of backroom deals. And now they can just do it out in public. Here's a video. How long is this video? 1.5 minutes.
I think we have to acknowledge that the progress we've made in economic development in central Ohio is amazing. We're probably the fastest growing mid-sized city in the Midwest. That's a significant accomplishment. And we have the opportunity to accelerate our growth. I know the answer to the success that we've had is the Columbus way, a partnership, not only between the private sector and public, but amongst all the businesses and all the public leaders in the community. We're all in this together, and we each have something to contribute. I think the opportunity for us looking forward is to recognize how much momentum and positive results we've gained in such a short period of time. Momentum is a precious thing. With momentum, we can go from, the progress we've made to really accelerated growth. So it's not outside my imagination that we could have 5% growth in the community. Other communities have, and I think our foundation puts us at that, which means we've got to be wiser and smarter and take advantage of the progress we've made, because that will lead to future progress. We have the opportunity to go from good to really great. Wouldn't it be great if we were #1 in the United States?
This all sounds great. I mean, again, what do you think he's gonna do? So she continues again. This is Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin at unlimitedhangout.com. You can see that I put the link to the article up there on screen. Go support them and go read the article there if you don't want to listen to me read the whole thing. The Wexner-dominated Columbus Partnership has also produced another affiliate organization. Go figure, because they don't create shell companies enough. Smart Columbus, which is focused on making Columbus a test city for other smart cities in the United States. Smart meaning 15-minute. Smart meaning it's all kind of linked together and monitored by cameras. Let's see. Smart Columbus is another public-private partnership between the Columbus Partnership and the city of Columbus. God, they love their public-private partnerships, don't they? One of its goals is to end the use of privately owned conventional cars in the city, replacing it with electric public transportation. You're literally not even going to be allowed to drive downtown. That's not great. The organization was created in 2016 after the city received a $50 million Department of Transportation grant to aid that effort, along with millions more from the family foundation of Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. This goal is notably analogous to a goal promoted by the U.S. government's National Security Commission on AI, whose members included U.S. intelligence officials and representatives of big tech firms, including those which own major data centers in New Albany. Do you see how this is all starting to connect? Wexner's Columbus Partnership is also a network partner of an organization called Jobs Ohio. Jobs Ohio's other regional partners, which are 7, including the Columbus Partnership, are also public-private partnerships or private sector-led nonprofits, essentially modeled after the Columbus Partnership, but they focus on different areas of the state. As noted earlier, Jobs Ohio prepared the large incentives packages for the Intel New Albany deal, as well as the more recent Andrew. It's more organizations at the state level to funnel money to corporations for different specific vertical needs. And here she talks about Jobs Ohio. All right. And here's an Anduril deal discussed again later in a section of this article. Jobs Ohio is a very controversial organization. Created in 2011, it was the privatized replacement for the Ohio Department of Development that takes in money from what was once a public asset, Ohio's state liquor tax, which it leased the rights to through 2039 for $1.4 billion. Its lease was outrageously extended for another 14 years at no additional cost to Jobs Ohio by the Ohio Controlling Board last year. Why, when you were able to sell it for $1.4 billion for a certain block of time, would you then extend it for $0? Well, because they were greasing the skids, would be my guess. 4 years after it was created, it took in well over the $1.4 billion that it had paid for those rights. Those funds, which would have otherwise gone to fund the public sector, have ostensibly been spent on economic development, basically bribes to bring big corporations to the area. However, Jobs Ohio has been unable to produce data to back up its bold claims about job creation. It never is able to do that. While it's unknown how many jobs the group actually added, what has provably stacked up over the years are the group's known expenditures. And I'm guessing that she's got receipts for that. In addition, as a private corporation, Jobs Ohio is not required to show how the funds it takes in from the liquor tax are spent. So they take in public money because they pre-bought that money for $1.4 billion, though they've already taken in more than $1.4 billion, right? But they still continue to get that money because they bought it up front at a discount. But it also oddly pardoned delinquent loans tied to a massive state bribery scandal. So see the next section of this article about that. And has been tied to other scandals, such as that involving former Ohio State University President Ted Carter. All right. I think that was just you, Naybones. I don't know if anybody else froze. Yes, no oversight. Exactly. All right. The large incentive packages of taxpayer money that Jobs Ohio has awarded to corporations ultimately come down to a large corporate welfare scheme that's directly financed by regular Ohioans and by the federal government, it sounds like. Currently, Jobs Ohio is chaired by a corporate lobbyist closely tied to current Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. Again, these guys are all in bed with each other. It's very incestuous. The problems with Jobs Ohio were succinctly summarized by the Ohio Capital Journal, which noted that shortly after Jobs Ohio was created, quote, the group Progress Ohio immediately sued, claiming that the Jobs Ohio scheme violated several provisions in the state constitution prohibiting the state government from giving special treatment to a single corporation, including by extending credit to it. But they did that anyway. The Ohio Supreme Court threw out the suit, saying those who brought it didn't have standing to sue because they didn't show they were personally harmed by the creation of Jobs Ohio. But wait, if you created an organization that competed with Jobs Ohio called Progress Ohio, wouldn't that have impacted you? Well, my guess would be Wexner was somehow influencing that judge. But I I don't know. I'm speculating. In a dissent, then Justice Bill O'Neill was appalled, as he should have been. Quote, hundreds of millions of dollars in public funds are being funneled into a dark hole to be dispersed without public scrutiny, and the highest court in the land is looking the other way? The Supreme Court of Ohio is the last house on the street, and passing on this case is an abdication of our duty as protectors of the Constitution. Yep, but they were ordered to do that, would be my guess, by a higher authority than the state constitution, sadly. Somebody who doesn't believe in state constitutions or state governments. Today, Jobs Ohio is another node in the latest iteration of the model first developed by Wexler and Kessler in that Columbus region, in New Albany. Corporate-controlled public-private partnerships in each region are now partnered with Jobs Ohio, which then funnels what was once public money with zero transparency into the hands of corporations doing business in the state. It's a little slush fund. And let me guess whether Les Wexner and his little buddies are going to get their little cut of every time. While these incentives are often framed as essential to creating jobs, research has actually shown that in about 3/4 of the cases, the incentives packages, like those developed by Jobs Ohio, would not have influenced the company's decision to settle or expand in the state. Maybe, except that the real influence was Les Wexner and maybe Epstein at the time. Jobs Ohio was notably created by legislation signed into law by former Governor John Kasich in 2011. That year, Kasich brought on VC financier Mark Kvamme to get Jobs Ohio off the ground. Kvamme was a veteran of Sequoia Capital, I know that name, before moving to Ohio to co-found the VC firm Drive Capital. Kvamme had donated over $1 million to Kasich's gubernatorial campaign prior to him choosing him to set up Jobs Ohio. They basically bought his way into a role like that, which then gives him all kinds of power and access to set himself up for further wealth. This guy was already super wealthy, though, as a VC. Kvamme's recent activities, including those directly linked to the New Albany company, are again discussed in detail in the next section. Man, there's a lot of sections left. All right, this is a thing about the creation of the Jobs Ohio board.
It's a panel of presidents and CEOs accustomed to being paid huge salaries and bonuses, but for their service on the board of Jobs Ohio, they will receive no financial compensation. Mark Kvamme, the venture capitalist from California, picked by the governor to head up the state's job creation efforts, will run the show. Kvamme and his wife contributed heavily to Kasich's campaign and Ohio Republican groups, giving just over $100,000 since 2008. James Boland, former CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, gave $22,000 to the Kasich campaign. Boland and C. Martin Harris, chief information officer for the Cleveland Clinic, worked with Kasich as board members for Invacare, a healthcare company based in Elyria. Critics say it's those kinds of connections that cause concern.
I think it really sort of raises the larger question that the public has been concerned about, and that much of the legislature has been concerned about, whether or not this isn't a pay-to-play kind of situation. And there's certainly reasons to be asking those questions in light of the connections that those appointments have to the governor and his campaign.
This is a really terrific board.
The governor dismisses such talk and says the expertise on the board shows how serious an effort this is.
Each one of them come with multiple different capabilities and experiences. What the governor really wanted was a diverse board, both from an experience perspective and from a regional perspective.
Others on the board include Gary Heminger, president of Marathon Petroleum, and Stephen Davis, CEO of Bob Evans. Both companies received millions of dollars worth of tax incentives from the state this year to stay in Ohio. The lone female on the board is Pamela Springer, president of Columbus-based Manta, an online platform for small businesses. State Representative Nancy Garland says the lack of more women on the board is a glaring mistake.
It's disappointing when you know all the well-qualified women out there that can do this job.
Well qualified. Sure. Okay. In addition to these donations from Kwame, the coffers of many of Kasich's political campaigns, as well as those of the state's Republican Party, have long been filled by Wexner, go figure, who's historically been the main political donor in the state for right-leaning politicians. However, Wexner, of course, also donates to Ohio Democrats. Why buy one side when you can buy them both? Kasich also received 35 gifts from Wexner in 2010, the year before he created Jobs Ohio with Kwame, but Kasich declined to disclose the nature of those gifts. That's also how? You're a public employee getting gifts from the richest political donor in the state, and you don't have to disclose? Okay. In addition to those ties, Kasich also tapped Wexner directly in 2013 to aid the state's marketing effort to businesses based elsewhere. Again, this is where he gets to get paid as marketing to lobby and to bring other businesses into the state. According to reports, Kasich compared asking Wexner for help in this effort to a quarterback getting advice from a Super Bowl champion, Peyton Manning. Oh, God almighty. I'm going to be sick. When asked about Wexner's ties to Epstein and why it had hampered Wexner's businesses in New Albany, Kasich responded that it was because New Albany operates at the speed of business. Okay, not that they just basically buried their connection to Epstein or anything. At the speed of business. Notably, a few years later in 2016, longtime Epstein associate Gwendolyn Beck emailed Epstein about joining Kasich's campaign as an advisor for a committee on aging. This clearly suggests that Epstein at the time still had a direct line to Kasich's campaign that year. It's also important to note that while Jobs Ohio rakes in billions in what was once Ohio public funds, and while Wexner greatly influences public spending on economic development, Ohio has been forced to drastically cut funding for public schools, libraries, publicly funded healthcare programs, and much more. The money's got to come from somewhere. They can't print their own money. They don't issue their own currency. Furthermore, many of the companies enticed to the state, and the Columbus region in particular, are data centers, which again have also been raising electricity costs across the state because they're driving up the per kilowatt hour price because of their usage. They've also been linked to serious health issues and noise issues. While Jobs Ohio would argue that these data centers create jobs, the vast majority of the jobs they do create are temporary, as they are construction jobs that predictably disappear once a data center is built. You don't need much more construction once you've built the thing. Public outrage against data centers have grown in the state and around the country as a result, with the state legislature recently voting to end some of the state subsidies that help Wexner's New Albany and other areas in the state court them. As they should. These are all for-profit corporations. Why do you need them in your area draining your resources? Well, because Wexner has other businesses, ancillary businesses, that can profit from all these other businesses being here. Despite this legislation passing, Governor Mike DeWine recently used a line item veto to quietly allow these subsidies to continue. All right, so even though the state legislature passed that they don't want to continue to fund this, the governor just slipped it under the radar. And maybe that's because of his relationship with Wexner. I'm sure it can't hurt. All right. Innovate Ohio and the Ohio Fund. We've got yet another shell company. As Kasich was leaving the governor's office in January 2019, he signed off on the creation of a new government agency called Innovate Ohio. His successor, Mike DeWine, and his lieutenant governor, John Husted, both of whom have been heavily funded by Wexner, go figure, oversaw the agency's efforts to modernize the state of Ohio's public services. Let me guess, did they get any contracts with Palantir? I'm guessing so. Not unlike the pitches for Jobs Ohio and related groups, retooling of Ohio public services to be as digital focused as possible was deemed necessary in order to make the state attractive to outside business. In April 2019, Mike DeWine issued an order forcing all state agencies, boards, and commissions to adopt and use Innovate Ohio. Wow. Again, completely corrupt because Innovate Ohio was appointed by Wexner-friendly people. The initial board of Innovate Ohio included Mark Kwame, who helped create Jobs Ohio, as well as Ohio businessman turned Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno, he owned car dealerships, and venture capitalist and current VP J.D. Vance, who we know has connections to Thiel. Moreno's campaign, financed in part by, go figure, Wexner, was notably dogged by accusations that he used his position on the board at Innovate Ohio to boost a blockchain company in which he had a large stake. Other notable founding members of the board at Innovate Ohio include the head of U.S. intelligence and defense contractor Battelle, whose Columbus area facility was the alleged source of the anthrax used in the 2001 attacks. Remember that? The anthrax that was sent to Congress people and people in D.C. and NBC News, I believe, in New York. Vivek Ramaswamy, we talked about him earlier, currently now running to be the new governor of Ohio after DeWine, because these parasites never go away. They just continue to resurface. He's also joined the board of Innovate Ohio after its founding. Remember that he's got deep ties with Thiel, and he's also, I believe, a shareholder in Rumble, so he's got ties to Vance through Rumble through that as well. As part of its mandate, Innovate Ohio laid the infrastructure for and then established digital identity via the OHID system for every Ohioan hoping to access state public services. So that's like the real ID stuff. Innovate Ohio's advisory board is currently chaired by Fallon Donahue, who co-founded Narya Capital with J.D. Vance and former Mithril Capital partner Colin Greenspan. Mithril is closely linked to tech billionaire Peter Thiel. Again, that name keeps resurfacing, whose deep ties to Epstein have been further illuminated by recent releases. Vance is also a Mithril alum, and Thiel played a pivotal role in launching his political career. Narya has invested heavily in Vivek Ramaswamy's Strive Asset Management, which has also received funding from Cantor Fitzgerald. We've talked about him before, or them, whose longtime head, Howard Lutnick, or Nutlick, is currently the Commerce Secretary under Trump. He also runs Tether. Lutnick's sons are currently running Cantor in his absence, but I'm sure a phone call from daddy to sons can get whatever really he wants. But we'll see. I thought Boner was in South Carolina. I don't think he's South Carolina. I thought Boehner was in Ohio. As previously noted, venture capitalist Mark Kwame was central not only to the creation of Jobs Ohio, but also to the early years of Innovate Ohio. Prior to moving to Ohio, while at Sequoia, Kwame was one of the earliest backers and board members of Reid Hoffman's LinkedIn and has invested alongside Hoffman in other companies. Hoffman has since become infamous for his ties to Epstein and the Democratic Party. Remember, I believe he funded the Shadow app back in 2020. The firm that Kwame co-founded in Ohio, Drive Capital, received that $50 million grant from Ohio State University for one of its funds. Reports suggested the controversial decision to put so much of Ohio State funds into Drive Capital was related to Kwame's ties to Kasich as well as John G. At the time, G was serving as a member of Ohio State's Board of Trustees, while also serving as a director of Wexner's The Limited. No way. Yet another link to Wexner. He also had taken Wexner's spot on the board that when Wexner stepped down himself in 2012. So now you've got somebody like a loyalist, a compatriot, okay, a legacy who's going to continue along the same lines. Ohio State is also heavily funded by Wexner family donations. His name's all over the state. In addition, Kwame sat on the board of the Wexner Center for the Arts, which is chaired by none other than Les Wexner. Are we getting a pattern here? There's Reid Hoffman and Mark Kwame in front of the stock exchange the day LinkedIn went public. LinkedIn was, by the way, went up to a couple of $100 a share and then was acquired by Microsoft. So Reid Hoffman then cashed out and made $1 gazillion. Kwame has since developed what he refers to as Ohio's own sovereign wealth fund, modeled after Singapore's state-owned investment company, Temasek. That fund, called the OHIO, how fitting, the Ohio High Growth Investment Opportunities Fund, has raised hundreds of millions of dollars from Ohio-based investors whose identities have not been disclosed by the fund. The fund does have an advisory board of several prominent Ohio businessmen, each from a major Ohio city. So she's going to talk about, notably, the businessman chosen by the fund to represent Columbus is Alex Fisher. Let me guess whether he's going to be Wexner connected. Former CEO and president of the Wexner-founded Columbus Partnership, who's currently a partner at Wexner's New Albany company. Naturally. Notably, the Ohio Fund has backed a recently approved New Albany development called the New Albany Innovation Center, that's marked by Wexner's New Albany company as one of the key incentives for businesses considering moving to the Columbus suburb that he largely controls. In addition, the Ohio Fund's first big investment was the purchase of a large 148-acre property roughly 12 miles away from New Albany in Sunbury, Ohio. Are we watching the Israelization of Sunbury, where they're going to basically expand New Albany there? Or they'll just have another zip code that they can funnel other kinds of stuff through and create different laws to go back and forth and different rules. Who knows? The property is part of the Sunbury Business and Technology Park, right? Sunbury Business and Technology Park, soon to be home to a massive $2 billion Amazon data center, is being developed by, you guessed it, Wexner's New Albany company. This is really unbelievable. This guy's got his hands in every single thing. The Ohio Fund has also contributed significant sums to Narya Capital, the VC firm also co-founded by J.D. Vance. Kwame, who created the fund, has been a major fundraiser for Vance's political campaigns. Kwame, importantly, also has his own political ambitions, so watch for him to run for some kind of political office in the future. That isn't the only investment that the Ohio Fund has made with ties to the current Trump administration alone. The fund recently teamed up with Terry Coyne, who was recent chairman of the Cleveland office of Newmark, to find the next Anduril to fill a large property near Columbus's Rickenbacker Airport. Newmark's recent acquisition of this land near Rickenbacker neighbors the site chosen for military contractor Anderill's planned large drone factory. Again, later discussed in this article. Probably going to have to suspend this at some point. Andarill was created by two figures close to Peter Thiel, as well as J.D. Vance, Palmer Luckey, and Trey Stevens. The Ohio Fund is the only member of the group of investors behind Coin that Coin has chosen to disclose. I'm guessing that Wexner and other individuals are also behind him, but they don't need to disclose that. Okay, so Newmark, again, that's this guy, this company that Terry was the vice chairman for. Newmark owns the land in question and employs Coin. Newmark is a subsidiary of Cantor Fitzgerald, which also has a ton of shell and holding companies, by the way. The New York Times recently reported on how the Lutnick family and Cantor have been cashing in on AI data centers around the country, with the Columbus region apparently being no exception. Why would it be? Because they're very closely tied with Thiel and J.D. Vance and Ramaswamy. Lutnick was very close to Wexner's former money manager Epstein, who was Lutnick's longtime neighbor and also his business partner. Epstein also hosted Lutnick at his infamous island, as well as the family. All right. I'm gonna cut this article off here. This has been one of the longest reads I've done at 90 minutes. And this is part one. I'm going to come back and read part two next week. I think we're about halfway through. So, yeah, thank you for hanging out for that. Let me see just how much we have left here. There's a substantial amount. Yeah. We'll come back next week and we'll read the other half of this. And we'll probably do another hour and a half just on that. Because I still actually do have a bunch of other stuff I wanted to talk about tonight. All right. But we're gonna shelve it for tonight and we'll come back and do the other half. All right. I hope everyone appreciates that. That I'm calling that for now. Thank you, Golden Monarch. Appreciate you. Your voice would be shot. Well, I've been taking a drink here or there. I try it. It is a lot of info to absorb also. All right. But it's really like it is a fire hose of information to absorb. But basically what you've got is that Wexner is involved in all of these shell companies that are involved in developing the area, in selling the land, in bringing companies to the area, and in getting grant money to be able to fund the bribery that it's taking to bring them into the Columbus area. That's where we're at so far. Support independent media like this. Again, support Unlimited Hangout because Whitney and Mark are unbelievable. But if you want to support INN, the ways to do that, Cash App, $, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, at patreon.com/Indie News Network, at IndieNewsNow.com. That's the website that I built that aggregates over 100 sources, that runs 24/7, completely ad-free, and you can get linked to articles like the one I just read for an hour and a half, and a ton of others, again, running 24/7. Also at IndieMediaToday.com, where we're live on Substack, and at INNNewsletter.com, where we publish a weekly update of all the activity from Indie News Network, which is I am a co-founder of. We're going to have a little fun right now. And shout out to our friends over at Hotspot. They grabbed this video that was produced by the government of Iran to troll Trump. And I'm gonna bring two of these videos to troll Trump and troll Israel that Iran put out. And we'll get a little bit of a break here. But check this out. All right. Outstanding level trolling. I mean, that is expert level trolling, I must say. Iran posts an AI video mocking a Lego President Trump. Why the Legos? Why not? It is a depiction of capitalism, I guess. We definitely are living in a cartoon. And they've got some pretty good developers on their own front. But then they made another one. This one is more cartoon form. Bye-bye. The gamification of World War III. All right. They call that the Lord of the Straits. Iranian media has released an animation titled Lord of the Straits themed around the Strait of Hormuz. Hollywood's going to get a run for their money, or at least the YouTube generation. My kids watch a lot of those style of videos where the emojis kind of tell the story. And that certainly tells a story for sure. Yeah. No, as Matumba would say, right? All you had to do was play Battleship or Stratego as a kid to know that this wouldn't go well. Well, all you also would have had to do was watch How Did We Miss That a couple of years ago. I read a Kit Clarenberg article from 2 years ago, and he said that they wargamed out bringing aircraft carriers into the South China Seas, and that within 2 weeks, all of the aircraft carriers were sunk. And that effectively aircraft carriers are from a bygone age and really don't wield the power from close proximity, because now you have drones and you have potentially little kamikaze drone boats that could take out a massive aircraft carrier. And word is that the Abraham Lincoln right now that you saw in that animation will be out somewhere from 12 to 14 months in dry dock. All right. So support independent media because we need it more than ever. That was fun. The ways to do that: Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, and paypal.me/Indie News Network. Over at patreon.com/Indie News Network. You can go monthly if you want to do that over there. And then over at IndieNewsNow.com is the website that I built, where you can find a lot of the articles that I bring to a lot of the shows every week, from Anti-War, from Unlimited Hangout, from a ton of different Substacks like Descent in Bloom and Extreme Arturo's Decolonized Journalism. I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones off the top of my head, and I'm blanking right now. AM Wake Up, of course, has a Substack, which I also help him administer over there. amwakeupshow.substack.com. Go subscribe over there. And okay, we're going to get to the Netanyahu stuff because it it's a crazy. You want to talk about a crazy story when it comes to Netanyahu? Is he alive? Is he not alive right now? I think he's alive. Maybe. A lot of people still seem to think he's not. And yes, AI Netanyahu stuff. That's what I want to bring, because I want to at least document for the record all of the different gymnastics that went down. So let's premise this and start by saying, and there's a timeline, and I did this in chronological order, but we're going to start at one that was just published yesterday. And then we're going to go back to the 16th. Now, on March 8th, there was a hit, and allegedly there was a report that Bibi was killed, and he wasn't seen anywhere for a week. His son, Yair, who was an incessant tweeter, stopped tweeting on the 8th for 7 days, which is the exact period of mourning or shiva that a Jew would sit if a family member, if they lost a family member. Doesn't necessarily even mean that it were his father, but it was odd that he picked that exact day to start sitting. It could have been his brother. I heard that there were reports that Netanyahu's son also was killed. But I want to start with this. To keep in mind how good AI has gotten. So Netanyahu's alive, bro. AI is not that good, right? So just remember just how good AI has gotten in a lot of cases. Fingers, hair. All right. All of the things that ears. They don't show teeth in this one. All right. But you would not be able to tell in a lot of ways that that's AI. And that's the whole point of all of this. So, oh God almighty, that's a frightening thought. Somewhere, someone has an AI girlfriend that's just a Netanyahu caricature. Oh God, that's gross. See, now I don't know. And this is the thing. I don't know. And I'm not going to say what I think one way or another because I still don't know. And that's the whole point of this whole presentation of why I'm bringing all this, is because this is all a psyop to confuse us. Okay, to have us speculating and talking and distracted from all the other shit that they're doing to talk about all of the mental gymnastics that the state of Israel themselves put out and did for the past week and change to try to prove to people that this man was alive, while using AI the entire time to try to prove that he was alive, but not having him make any public statements, speak to any world leaders publicly. I mean, it's really weird. So let's start with Yair. Angelo Giuliano, good independent journalist also in his own right. Angelo in China, also travels around the world to get the story. Yair's son of Benjamin is a Twitter addict. 113,000 tweets since joining. He tweets daily with almost no exception. But he hadn't tweeted for 5 days. Something must have happened. That was on the 14th. So something from the 9th on would have indicated, would have given him a reason to stop tweeting. Again, if you look at his thing, he's got a couple of 100,000 followers, been on since 2017, 133,000 tweets on his account. All right. So that's Angelo's take, is something's wrong. And on March 15th, Israel puts out this video of Netanyahu in a coffee shop. And everyone's, oh, okay. So here go the experts. Now, somebody said we were raised on Highlights magazine to spot the difference between pictures. And we've been trained on AI on how to spot the difference. So This is the clearest AI video I've seen in my life. But look at the board right next to Netanyahu. Even the Hebrew letters aren't real. The circled text, which most people wouldn't read, literally reads, business of the trainees before. Gibberish. What the hell kind of coffee menu says that? Total gibberish. AI still completely melts when it tries Hebrew. This is how Israel got caught red-handed pushing fake videos of their prime minister. And that is only one of several tells that was caught from the coffee shop. So that's number one. Number two is that everyone had a field day. This is from TRT World. Let's, how long is this one? Yeah, it's short. You got Kim, little Kim's there, and now Macron. Oops. Oh, wait. I thought they got him. Oh, wait. No, we can't show that guy. Biden, Elvis, Michael Jackson, Tupac. Just, they had a field day, okay? All right, but here's more that explain this. Background, bottom left. Okay. The explanation that I would have in this case is that if you look here, here's that number 2. And now if you look here, the number 2 is actually behind his elbow. And this sign, he just moved forward and it's a cut. But still, it's clearly a cut. Now what they're pointing to there is something in the window. All right, let's go back. All right, what's in the window there? How does he keep moving? Back and forth and back and forth. Look at the guy standing there. First you see the back of his head, then you don't. How does that happen if that's just a natural video where he's just talking? Oh. Ooh, oops. Right. Then, on top of that, all right, this was translated from Turkish. During Corona, Netanyahu went to this cafe where he's seen drinking coffee in today's footage. In the old footage, you can see his bodyguards wearing masks. That's another big tell. Why are they wearing masks? Even here, the guy back there is wearing a mask. Allegedly. All right. Then we've got this one that seems maybe he got a nip and tuck while he was away. Where'd all the lines in his forehead go? Now he's got lines in his neck. That leads me to believe that that's a mask. That's fake Netanyahu. But more, this coffee shop from which he allegedly had this coffee and got this AI coffee, it's been closed due to Iranian airstrikes. Oops. Oh, wait. How could he have gone and gotten coffee from a closed coffee shop for a specific photo shoot? Oops. I continue. There's more. All right, here we go again. Here's another shot with the bodyguards. I got that one already. All right, I thought I had that one. Savat. Tamo. There. Okay. Yeah, I guess that one I have twice. So let's close that one. Now this is another one. All right. Here's the thing with that board again. Insider. Is this Insider World? Hold on. Tamo. NYC Savat. Next one's Insider World. Here we go. Sinwar. And again, remember, you've got the masked bodyguard behind him with the fake Hebrew letters on the image. All right. And then we've got more. Bud's coffee cup is full to the brim. He lifts the coffee cup. Not a single drop of coffee spills from the cup. Later takes a big sip. Coffee cup still full to the brim. This is more AI than that 6-finger video. All right. So here he is squeezing the cup. No coffee comes out of the cup. That would defy the laws of physics, nature, and gravity, I would think. All right. Then there was a whole other thing about the teeth. All right. That, I believe, is the end of the coffee shop. So that's just number one AI. The next day, they put out yet another video of this man, allegedly, standing on like a vista with his daughters. All right. So let's watch this video. So there are a couple of issues with this video. Like, he's walking very stiffly, first of all. It's really weird. Again, you've got the bodyguards in masks. No, he's not wearing a mask, nor are his daughters. Okay, you just missed, there was just a thing there. So, no, look at his finger. Look at his ring finger. So, he goes here. You can clearly see there's a ring there, right? Watch what happens. He puts the ring there. There's no finger. There's no ring on the finger as he puts his finger down. There's no ring. How did that ring disappear? So they're standing in there talking. All right. This is all fake. This is totally fake. And again, stiff dude. No wrinkles. This whole thing is manufactured. Now they've got his family involved. This has got to be a body double. But it's also AI. The whole thing is manufactured. And then it turns out that he actually was here with his daughters way back at one point. Recycled footage from 2021. Again, during Corona times. Here's the wedding ring disappearing. So let's go to power mapping with the ring being visible. Here's the replay where you see it, and now you don't. So why are they making cuts like that? And there's the ring back. And the ring's there still. But the ring was clearly gone in that shot right there. There's no ring. Where'd it go? All right. So there's a lot more in there. The ring is there. The whole video. Compression makes it less. Okay. Sure. Then there's a bunch of people doing mental gymnastics. It's not there. It's just reflecting his skin. Its outline is visible. Right. No, it means that they weren't able to put the different color on there, but they saw that there was an indentation. All right. So what skin would it be reflecting? Basically a mirror. Right. Then you've got the fact that the rhetoric all of a sudden changed. Living Netanyahu was all, Amalek, kill them all. And dead Netanyahu's like, I have all my fingers, I drink coffee, I'm alive. And unusually smiley at that. Right? Then we've got the Mike Huckabee video. All right. Now, this was crazy. Now you've got the U.S. ambassador getting involved. So here's Housebot Guy breaking this down. Here are the most egregious examples of AI Netanyahu, ranked 1 through 4, which is number 1, the Huckabee face glitch. Then you've got this shadow moving at a different speed in this press conference where you have the shadow on the flag moving differently than his hands. Then you've got the mismatched eye reflection. And then you've got the coffee thing. So the Huckabee thing is unbelievable. How does the man's entire head shape change as they're walking? He literally shapeshifts. It's crazy. No disrespect. Okay. All right. It's the reason they can't announce is because of the Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. All right. In the early 90s, when Netanyahu was a young diplomat and a rising politician before his first term, Schneerson met with him privately multiple times. According to accounts from Chabad followers, Netanyahu's associates, and reports that spread widely in Israel, Shearson told him something along the lines of, "You will be Israel's prime minister who will pass the scepter." Right? The Israeli government has gone too far. The people need to rise up and push them out in favor of a government that puts people and prosperity over vengeance. All right. Interesting analysis. Here's another one with the ear, the double ear canal. Meh, meh. Okay, that's not real. So let's get to the Huckabee video. Okay, that is not, that's totally A. Watch his hair go backwards. Now, part of this is that he wore this tie back in 2025. He visited with Netanyahu. And what's weird is that he didn't retweet this video. So Netanyahu's still trying to prove he's alive. Huckabee says, "I wanted you to know the president asked me to come in and make sure you were okay." "Yes, Mike, yes, I'm alive. We shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand, you know." Meanwhile, there's a 6th finger that shows up. "I'm alive, but I have this card. No, I don't read it. So it's a punch card. Today I erased 2 names on this punch card, and you see how many more to go on this batch." It's creepy. All right, we're getting rid of these lunatics who would like to develop nuclear weapons and the means to develop them to every American city after wiping out Israel. They ain't going to do that. We're wiping them out. Mr. Huckabee, I love it. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Okay, watch this.
And I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to, Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
There it is. There's
yes, Mike.
Like what?
Yes, I'm alive.
And again, why walking so stiffly?
To make sure, because you know, you guys.
Where are the wrinkles in his forehead?
We shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand, you know. But I have to tell you, I'm alive, but I have this card.
Oh.
And yeah, don't read it. So it's a punch card.
Mm-hmm.
Today I erased 2 names on the punch cards, and you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Right there, there's an extra finger.
List of the good guys.
Thank you.
And
there's tons of people who zoom in on this. I'll show you in a second.
Are doing is incredible. We're very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. And getting rid of these lunatics who would like to develop nuclear weapons.
The only lunatics that I see are the 2 that are standing there.
After wiping out Israel. They ain't going to do that. We're wiping them out. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, so Huckabee never retweets that video, first of all. If he were actually there, you would think that he would have tweeted it. But no, Huckabee puts out like his own photo later. But here's the face glitch. Again. Back and forth, back and forth. That's not just a smile. His entire head, his entire hairline moves backwards. That's not natural. All right. But more than that, here's the thing. Dated February 2026, Ambassador Huckabee meets with Prime Minister Netanyahu. So, of course, they run it through AI. When was this picture taken? Based on visual indicators, this image was taken a year before at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. All right. The angle they're standing at is weird. Everything about this picture is weird as fuck. And Huckabee tweeted that. He didn't tweet out the video where they're walking, or allegedly walking. He tweets out this creepy, weird picture of them standing at different angles in front of Netanyahu, in front of the Prime Minister's office. I mean, again, fake Netanyahu. There were a lot of people having fun with this, replacing him with Elvis and all different characters. Very, very funny. Okay, but that's also a really weird picture. And here we go. Here's somebody who's speculating after the video that he's dead. Check the ambassador's tie. And now in the first pic, then why he changed 3 suits in one day. Meaning Netanyahu, because they put out 3 different videos of him. So one he's wearing a red tie, one he's wearing a blue tie, one he's wearing no tie with that jacket over and a blue shirt when he had white shirts before. Also strange. Also fabricated. And again, I'm not saying that he is one way or another. All right, now, I then bring this video, which was published on the 17th, last Tuesday, all right, that speculates and that claims that this is actually video inside a bunker, an underground bunker, and that's Netanyahu behind or in front of an Israeli flag, and the ceiling collapses.
From Israeli officials in which Israeli prime can be seen dying in an Iranian missile strike.
Is that AI? I don't know.
From Israeli officials.
How did China or Al Jazeera or whoever it is get it? I don't know. Again, this is all part of a psyop. And again, I'm not speculating whether he is or he isn't. I don't know. And I think that they're trying to keep us guessing. All right. Now, then there was this one, the press conference. So now this is on the 19th. Or the 19th. They put him out 2 days later, and he gives this alleged press conference. And you can see here his left hand, palm shirt and suit hand. All of a sudden, you see this white sleeve appear. Right? So watch this. This is 8 seconds.
1, removing the nuclear threat.
That is not a natural movement, the way that sleeve just slid down there. Yeah. That looks like a computer mouse sliding something down. Oh, let's see the cuffs. Like literally. All right. So somebody here speculates. My theory is that they're using the Twitter comments to improve the quality of their AI for some future purpose. Maybe not so future, when everyone has to believe that a video is real. And I believe that that is absolutely correct. All right. Next. And here's another one where it focuses specifically on the sleeve. Just how the hell? That, again, not a natural motion where the jacket doesn't move, but the sleeve underneath it does. The rest of his arm doesn't move. How the hell does the sleeve move? Come on, man. Okay, next. Part of the press conference. Worse, Israel discloses that no journalists were actually present for that Netanyahu press conference. Okay, Netanyahu, again, according to AI, the Times of Israel and YouTube, Netanyahu's press conference took place on March 19th, early evening Israel time, or late night, March 20th, Australian daylight time. Okay, it was his second appearance since the Israel-Iran war began, focused on updates about the conflict. His office and multiple outlets, including Times of Israel and Reuters, described it as a televised opening statement followed by a virtual Q&A specifically for foreign or international media. Physical presence of journalists and media outlets. There were no foreign or international journalists physically present in the room with Netanyahu. Not how they made it appear with the questions that the way he was answering questions. Okay. Next, we've then got the 22nd. This was 2 days ago, or 3 days ago. Fake Bibi, or 2 days ago. The fake Bibi. Well, or maybe it was fake Bibi, but all of a sudden now you get a public appearance. Now, is this the masked guy that showed up with his daughters? He's wearing like the same outfit, basically, at this point. So this person speculates and accuses 2 fake Netanyahu body doubles showing up in Arad today, gave the exact same speech hours apart, wore different outfits, and one even read answers off a screen like a total amateur. All right. I don't even know if that's the same guy. I mean, they're saying that it's not. I'm not sure, but I also notice, again, all the police behind him are wearing masks. Why is it just the officials are wearing masks and nobody else? So here's footage number 1, which is actually an interview with a Fox News reporter. So this seems like it might be a real interaction with a real human being somewhere in Arad, Israel, because they realize that they need to put some physical body out there. I still believe that this is an AI, not an AI, but an imposter in a mask, a body double. And I could be wrong, but the wrinkles and everything, the mannerisms, everything about this person does not seem like this is him. So here's 49 seconds. You tell me what you think.
And trying to blackmail the entire world. What more proof do you need that this regime that threatens the entire world has to be stopped? Israel and the United States are working together for the entire world. And it's time to see the leaders of the rest of the countries join up. I'm happy to say that I can see some of them beginning to move in that direction, but more is needed. President Trump's call to have the international community confront this terrorist fanatic regime of zealots, that is a call not only for the security of America and the security of Israel, it's for the security of the entire world. And it's time for them to act.
Sir, what will your response be to this attack on Israeli civilians?
We're responding with great force, but not on civilians. We're going after the regime and trying to blackmail them.
Not on civilians, except that they're doing the exact opposite of that, not only in Iran, but also in Lebanon. But again, where are all the lines on that guy's forehead? Did he go get a nip tuck while he was getting bombed? On top of the fact that somebody even reminded us that his plane has never left Berlin, allegedly. I don't know if that's true, but supposedly the plane that took him there never left. Now, again, this guy, all right, now, so here's come all the Bibi defenders to spike the football. And they're like, all right, so he's clearly now alive. So are all the people who have been claiming and that he's dead and that they've been using AI for days, are they all going to apologize and eat crow? You're all unprofessional hacks. All right, why have they all gone silent? Are they not going to take back calling us crazy when we were simply explaining how compression works? No, it's possible that was all AI and he was convalescing and they got a stand-in the meantime. Do they believe that he's in on it? And this guy actually answered down below and said, no, I was actually there and I actually did speak to him, which of course he would say. All right. So that's Bibi number 1. Bibi number 2 is this one. Now this, again, looks like a completely different person at a completely different press conference. This is allegedly just hours later.
If anyone needed an explanation of why Iran is the enemy of civilization and the enemy and the danger to the entire world, you got it in the last 48 hours. In the last 48 hours, they fired a terror weapon on civilians, on children. There's a children's nursery here. There's an old person's home here. Civilians, families, they fire terror weapons on civilians. And often they use cluster bombs, which are forbidden by international law. The second thing that they did,
which is exactly what Israel's been doing in Gaza.
Right next to the holy places. They sent ballistic missiles that could have destroyed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the Western Wall. The 3 holiest sites to the 3 monotheistic religions, they don't care. They're firing on everyone. If anyone needed...
Sure. Again, just spewing lies out of this dude. All he did. Right. So Karen is speculating they needed 2 body doubles because memorizing scripts is hard work, you know. Yes. This is a double, same as Biden in his later years. I tend to agree. Again, very smooth-brained for a almost 80-year-old guy who's recently been the suffering of some kind of a bombing attack and disappeared out of all public view for more than a week while he's leading a war that he started. All right. Crazy shit. Finally, we have this one that proves that, oh, no, we were fooled again. All right. According to Grok, this photo of this video was actually taken in 2015. June 15, 2015. It shows Benjamin Netanyahu visiting the site of an Iranian missile attack in Bat Yam from the first quote-unquote 12-day war, whatever, where a residential building was destroyed. So it gives him the reason and the excuse to talk about Iran. So this is definitely recycled footage, which is something they've also done and been caught repeatedly doing. All right, no wonder why he looked so much younger. So why have they been working this hard to either lead people to believe that he's still alive, all right, and then spring this 2 weeks later, oh no, he's actually still alive, but do we know that this is actually him? No. I mean, there's a lot of questions there, and I think that the fact that they've been trying to muddy the waters and have people argue about whether this is or is not him in the first place is substantial and significant on its own. Whether he is or isn't, or this is a body double that they're now using until such time that they are going to announce. And then someone else I read had reminded us that I think it was Ariel Sharon had died, and they never announced, they didn't announce that for like months before that actually happened. Yeah, he's going through some procedures or some things, maybe. All right, they need him to look alive because if allies to America find out that they got him, then any of them are at risk, and the U.S. can't have that right now. That's possible. Also really interesting speculation theory. Maybe that the U.S., you know, if Netanyahu's not leading the charge, they think that the U.S. public doesn't necessarily trust anybody else to complete the quote-unquote mission, whatever that is, of getting us out of whatever they got us into in Iran, possibly. Also, yes, loss of 30 pounds, all right, the lift on the forehead, the finger transplant, yes, go start. It seems pretty obvious that it would be AI, and whether he's alive or not, I'm not really sure, but it hasn't changed the war effort necessarily. But what you have seen are some of those videos that got put out. Even in that Lego video I showed earlier, it did show a Netanyahu in a body cast in a hospital bed. So they seem to believe that he was actually alive also. I don't know, but what I do know is that Israel is going out of its way to make everybody think that he's still alive, and that things would be happening whether he were in charge or not, because they have put the mechanisms in place that he and Trump both are not really running things anymore. They're not in control. So once they are eliminated, and both of them are super old and they will be removed at some point, this whole thing will continue rolling on, whether that is through J.D. Vance or through Gavin Newsom or Cam. I can't imagine the Democrats would be dumb enough to do that again. I saw today a poll saying that Pete Buttigieg was the leading candidate at this point. It's just awful. I mean, there's no good choices. It's none of the above 2028 already. But before we get to the Lebanon thing, support independent media because we need it more than ever. Cash App, ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork. Also, paypal.me/IndieNewsNetwork. Patreon.com/IndieNewsNetwork for the monthly. Over at IndieNewsNow.com, there's a section to keep the news free, and you can actually leave a tip over there. You can also check out news, get merch, and you can also watch us live whenever we're live. We're actually live over there now, self-hosted. Then INNNewsletter.com is the network's newsletter. I put that out every Friday, and a couple of the other shows stream live to INNnewsletter.com, and then put out a podcast version ad-free via email and on the web. And we're live over at IndieMediaToday.com. So if you're over on Substack, subscribe for free to IndieMediaToday.com, and you can pick up a paid or annual subscription if you're able to and of means. I really appreciate it. All right. I've got this thing on Lebanon. And Israel, go figure, has moved the goalposts on Lebanon, but sort of. Because we've always known, in a way, that like total annexation was their goal and their plan. And the Greater Israel Project was their plan. I brought a couple of articles from Human Rights Watch, from Anti-War, and from Common Dreams, and I wanted to showcase some of the stuff that's happening that I found. So this was actually sent to me from Dissent in Bloom. Lebanon, okay, according to Human Rights Watch, Israel is unlawfully using white phosphorus. So you saw that fake Bibi then accusing Iran of using chemical weapons and going after civilian areas, which is exactly what Israel is doing, but they're also doing it in Lebanon. All right. Since the press release was published, the reported death toll from Israeli attacks has now risen in Lebanon to 394. So that was as of March 8th. All right. The Israeli military unlawfully used artillery-fired white phosphorus munitions over homes on March 3rd of this year in the southern Lebanese town of Yomor, Human Rights Watch said today. HRW verified and geolocated 8 images showing airburst white phosphorus munitions being deployed over a residential part of the town and civil defense workers responding to fires in at least 2 homes and 1 car in that area. The Israeli military's unlawful use of white phosphorus over residential areas is extremely alarming and will have dire consequences for civilians, which is exactly what Israel's intending. The incendiary effects of white phosphorus can cause death or cruel injuries that result in lifelong suffering. Again, that is Israel's intent. Okay, so I'll include a link to this HRW article. But I'm going to move on to Indie Media Award honoree, antiwar.com. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, has ordered the total destruction of all bridges over Lebanon's Litani River. In the course of prosecuting the ongoing invasion of southern Lebanon, Israel Katz announced that he's ordering the destruction of every bridge across the Litani River, raising doubts over whether the hundreds of thousands of people they ordered evacuated from the south of the river will ever actually be allowed to return. My guess is no. Israel ordered the population out of the area south of the Litani River at the war's onset and has expanded that to now include the area between the Litani and Zahrani rivers. They're pushing further north. They've also issued evacuation orders for Shiite portions of Beirut, leaving well over 1 million civilians displaced. And again, there's got to be another word for displaced, because it's not even close to what this really is. The attacks in and around the Litani River bridges were already becoming commonplace last week, including a high-profile incident Thursday in which Israel attacked an RT press crew reporting from northern Tyre, overlooking one such bridge. That was Steve Sweeney, who actually Tara Reid interviewed on INN 3 years ago. The reporter and cameraman were injured in the attack, and Israel defended the incident, saying everyone was warned to evacuate and sufficient time had passed. No, they just didn't want RT reporting from the area. So they bombed it. The bridge seen in the background of the Thursday attack, which is along a main Lebanese coastal highway, was destroyed outright on Sunday, meaning anyone still in the major city of Tyre who has yet to evacuate is effectively trapped in southern Lebanon now, which the IDF, feeling entitled to attack anyone and everyone still there, even clearly marked press members. So basically, they just signed the death warrant for anyone that was still south of the Litani River. In his statement Sunday, Defense Minister Katz said that he also ordered IDF troops to step up the demolition of civilian homes in southern Lebanon. Why? How is that not a war crime, particularly in towns close to the Israeli border, presenting the leveling of these villages as along the model of Rafah and Beit Hanun, two cities in Gaza Strip that Israel largely destroyed in the course of their war there. I wouldn't even call it a war. It's a massacre. Locals in southern Lebanon, the ones who are left, are increasingly concerned, I can't imagine why, that the mass destruction of parts of the area and the deliberate demolition of bridges connecting it to the rest of the country are a prelude to Israel establishing another de facto occupation of the region. With good cause, because that's what they're doing. All right. Israel occupied southern Lebanon in 1982 and was present in the region through 2000. Israeli troops invaded and occupied parts of the south in 2024 and never withdrew from the country despite the quote-unquote ceasefire that ended that previous war, specifying that they were meant to do so because they don't apply any rules to themselves. This latest invasion seems to further expand long-term Israeli presence in the region and align with the Greater Israel Project. Worse, like we said, he's deploying the Gaza model in Lebanon, ordering the destruction not just of homes, but of entire villages. One expert called the policy an open admission of the intent to commit ethnic cleansing. Because who's going to stop them? And this is again from Indie Media Award honoree Common Dreams. Good night, Natalie. I hope you feel a little bit better. I know you've been having problems with your feet. I love you. Appreciate all your support. Thank you for coming. All right. Israel is using Gaza as a model for expanding assault on Lebanon. Lebanon, which never attacked Israel. Hezbollah did. That's a separatist group that they allegedly are blowing up half of Lebanon and occupying it to eradicate. They allegedly had, but now all of a sudden, now it's gone. It's back. Or they never really got it in the first place. What a mess. All right. He also said that he'd ordered the military to accelerate the destruction of homes. As we said. Here's Israel Katz giving that order. I don't want to post it. All right. This Center for International Policy is an open admission of intent to commit ethnic cleansing. It's genocide. Further genocide in order to achieve their strategic goals of stealing the land and recreating whatever they consider to be the Greater Israel Project. Fuck Israel. And then further fuck Israel. This photo needs to be on the front page of every newspaper in the world. This is what occupation looks like. And for those listening on the podcast, this is two smiling IDF goons standing on either side of a handcuffed, blindfolded, older Arabic woman in a headscarf wearing a long coat that they've obviously arrested. Both of the goon soldiers are in full-on military gear with machine guns and tactical bulletproof vests. This is what occupation looks like. Fuck Israel. Okay. So that was our Lebanon and our Israel part. I wanted to get to some stuff about ICE and the airports. We'll do the GoFundMes and we'll get out of here quick. So, real quick, this guy, Kyle Offray, is someone that I follow. He said there was absolute chaos at Atlanta Airport. Highly recommend not traveling out of Atlanta. Now, this was Sunday until the TSA situation changes. TSA completely shut down. The lines were stretched for what felt like miles. A 6 to 7 hour wait time now, and Atlanta PD just took over. We stood there 4 hours thinking we were making progress, which we were, only to have the north checkpoint shut down and the entire line redirected to the back of the main terminal, which was also 4 hours. No communication, no structure, just thousands of people stuck, frustrated, and scrambling. If you're heading through ATL today or this week, plan accordingly, pack patience, and maybe say a quick prayer and get there a day early. So,
airport update for everybody. I just spent the last 3.5 hours of my Sunday there, and I got there plenty early in order to make my flight. I was in the north checkpoint, and I got there at about 3 o'clock for 3:30 for a 7:30-ish flight. And after spending 3 hours in the north checkpoint, they then shut the north checkpoint down because the workers left, and the Atlanta police stepped in and then were trying to escort all the people who just waited in line at the north checkpoint for 4 hours to the back of the line at the main checkpoint. Clear is closed, TSA pre-check is closed, and they also closed the south checkpoint at 5 o'clock. So you have about 10 or 12 hours of people that have been waiting, now consolidating into one single line at 7:30 at night on a Sunday. So I left and moved my flight till first thing tomorrow morning, probably going to go to the airport at 3 a.m. But that is the Atlanta airport update right now. Atlanta police has taken over. The workers have left, and it is a complete and total disaster. And I would not advise anybody travel out of Atlanta anytime soon. That's all.
What a mess. And then, of course, we're going to probably cover next week ICE taking over in 13 airports, or at least they started standing behind TSA agents. While the TSA agents are not being paid because there's a government shutdown, but the ICE agents are being paid because, well, fuck Trump. Okay, here's a video that's going to be a little bit hard to watch. Leaked video from inside an ICE detention center shows women trapped in desperate conditions, smuggled out by her husband. I can't imagine how that happened. Used panties, moldy food, broken shoes, clothes that don't fit because they're made for men, and a toxic mattress made of insulation. Oh my God. Gabriela Sousa came to the U.S. legally granted humanitarian parole from Venezuela and is married to a U.S. citizen husband. Her husband helped the women smuggle out this video they made, with testimonials from several women detained together in these inhumane conditions. This video was made secretly inside the Baker County ICE Detention Center in McLeany, Florida. Ready? Wait for our process. We are treated as criminals. We're mothers and our families. We're going to show some of the conditions which we've been living for months. The mouthwash brush used in broken panties. Shirts for men. The cloths. The uniform. Dirty in old stores. Uniforms that don't close. The pillows. The mattresses. We want freedom.
Hola, yo llevo en este país 45 años. Vine en Mariel en el 80. En el último mes me han llevado a 13 diferentes centros de migración.
They take me to 13 different centers, sleeping on the floor without mattresses, sometimes without clothes.
Mucha gente sufriendo, nos están tratando bien mal.
We're being treated very badly. Sometimes they give us raw food. We even get it with mold. They scream at us, treat us like criminals.
Buenas noches. La comida es muy mala. Yo tengo casi 3 meses de estar aquí encerrada por parte de ICE. No me suelta. La corte la dan para 3 meses me dieron la corte. Yo creo que es una injusticia de que nos tengan aquí encerradas. ¿Cuáles son los derechos de nosotras?
Sometimes they get better treatments in shelters. You're right. It's just awful. They're doing fuck ICE. So that's another story from ICE detention. And then we have G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe. Okay, Joe Kent, who became the celebrity of the week because he miraculously stepped up, right? And he couldn't take it anymore. And he had to be the voice of reason to prove, to say that this is all wrong and we never had a stated objective. Everybody knew that. All right. But he's attending this Prayer for America thing he attended the other day with Mike Flynn and Candace Owens and Matt Walsh and Sister Carrie Prejean. Catholics for Catholics. They've created a celebrity. 7 C's, friend of the show. Check out my 2 one-on-ones with him at INNnewsletter.com. Everyone's new moral compass is aligning himself with Mike Flynn and Candace Owens, the gopher for the CIA and DIA, Israel and Russia, and the propagandist wife of the House of Lords, buddies with Scientology's John Mappin. Everyone involved with America's future wishes to see everyone in America faced with decline to the benefit of Israel and Russia. On top of that, what I claimed here is now Scott Horton, who I did a INN anti-war free Palestine stream with a couple of years ago, moderated by Misty. Scott Horton founded Anti-War. He had an interview with Joe Kent the day after he resigned, and he claims that the U.S. intentionally armed and relied on Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria just to serve Israel's geopolitical interests in Iran. They literally created the ISIS caliphate, which we've already known, right? And Reef and Colin covered that ISIS was a creation of the Israeli security, ISIS is Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, all right? But I took that and I said, okay, no such thing as a former operative. We've known for years that ISIS also stood for that. Joe Kent, by the way, for those who don't know, is also backed by Peter Thiel and aligned with Michael Flynn and NGO Intel. This all feels like a big show, like they just introduced and elevated another player. Joe Kent, by the way, ran for Congress twice and lost. He's about to run again. You think he's going to lose now? Probably not, would be my guess. Angelo Giuliano, who I started the Netanyahu segment with, chimes in that Joe Kent is no hero, just another clever move in the broken U.S. empire. And this is my speculation as well. A closer examination reveals something far less heroic. This is not a courageous break of a genuine dissident. It's a carefully timed tactical retreat from a visibly sinking project designed to preserve his political viability and personal brand for future opportunities while avoiding any real accountability for the years he spent inside the system. Totally agree with every single word of that. And I'll add to it. All right, because I do think that Peter Thiel has aspirations for this guy. That they see him as a potential VP candidate, maybe under Vance, maybe even president someday. Maybe elevate him to speaker or a senator, put him on some influential board. He is a CIA agent, again, no ex-CIA. He's a CIA agent, ex-Green Beret. He fits the profile very well. And don't forget that this guy chose to go work for Trump for 16 months. And until this whole Iran thing, he was on board with all of it. He was on board with the genocide. He was on board with funding Ukraine and destabilizing Russia. He was on board with all of it. And now he's coming out and screaming about Charlie Kirk. I feel like he is part of this whole Marjorie Taylor Greene, new right America First, not Israel First part of the split within the Republican Party. Okay, finally, again, INN News just last week did a 45-minute segment just about Joe Kent and whether he has ulterior motives or whether he actually did resign in protest or both. It's possible that it's both. All right. So that's our lightning round. Go check out INN News at the INN channel over on YouTube. And you can get the clip over there. All right. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Patreon.com/Indie News Network. INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com over at Substack. And our news website, IndieNewsNow.com, where you can also leave a tip or pick up merch or read news from over 100 different independent sources. Okay. We're up to the GoFundMes. Okay. So, first is Shanda Masta. We've been talking about Shanda Masta since August of 2024, when she was first diagnosed with small cell lung cancer. And I mentioned last Tuesday that some of her friends went to go visit. And the story is that it spread even further again. And we don't know how much time we have left at this point. And anything you can do to help her with expenses towards that, we'd appreciate. I love you, Shanda. Fuck cancer. I'm so sorry for all of this. It's just awful. And it's heartbreaking to see. We all love you in this community. Oz, it's devastating to Oz. Oz, Shanda's co-host for Beauty and the Boomer and best friend, has watched this happen. And I'm sad to say I'm waiting on a phone call at some point, and I don't want to get that phone call ever, but I also don't want our friend to suffer. And if it's really moved the way it has, and she's even said that if it went to her brain, that she would not want to continue to fight, and she's fought an incredible fight, and who was or any of us to say one way or another how long and whatever. Yes, that is correct, Kate. She is in hospice in the hospital, and we're just kind of This is an Indie Media Award honoree. This is family. This is one of the best of us, and we love her. And we wish all the best for her and for her family and everyone around. But if you can support her GoFundMe, please. I dropped the link in the chat. Then we have Natalia. Natalia has been in ICE detention since last July, June or July. She was pulled over on a routine traffic stop over registration, was taken into ICE custody, and has been there ever since. It's pending appeal. We thought that there was going to be a hearing. There has not been a hearing yet. She is still sitting there pending appeal. We read her asylum letter that she was granted here, allowing her to be here. But for whatever reason, they're not allowing her to be here. And so they're keeping her in detention. And of course, bills are piling up. And they want to deport her to Ukraine, where she had feared for her life. So she's, of course, trying to avoid having to go back there. And of course, and she has a daughter here as well. And we want to see her released and freed and fight for her defense and for her release. So anything anyone can do there as well. And I see Natalie. God, Natalie's so good. Look at her. Always supporting, always there. We love you so much, Natalie. You're the best of us, really. And then we have Justice for Aspen. And of course, we did the Justice for Aspen live stream. Descent in Bloom was also a participant on that fundraiser back at the end of October. Aspen, unfortunately, was a passenger and caught in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong car, pulled over. The person who was driving had quantities of drugs that were deemed to be trafficking level, and she was also arrested and charged with drug trafficking and is facing decades in prison, either in a Georgia County lockup or federal. That's still to be determined. She needs to have money raised for her to hire experts and to hire lawyers and to live, of course, because she was going to go to school and towards her career, and this is going to mess her up for her career if she ends up getting convicted. She, of course, can't do what she wanted to do. You can help her by purchasing some of her artwork. There's a GoFundMe for her cause. You can read the Descent in Bloom article, beautiful, that talked all about her story. And then the read through that I did of that article, I did a one-on-one with Aspen and with her mother, Halo Benson. Halo and Aspen were essential to the Oklahoma for Assange movement in fighting for free speech. And Halo's like family. Halo had a birthday this week. Happy birthday to Halo. And again, anything that anyone can do to help, you can go to linktr.ee and the Justice, the number 4 Aspen, and you can get to all of the information there to be able to help, support, and share. Please share these if you can, if for nothing else, to explain to people what's happening, why they might help, why their help is needed, and why you are sharing this and why you think this is a worthy cause. And you would be surprised to how many people can throw $5, $10, $20, whatever they can. And every bit makes a difference. So thank you, really. Finally, I talked about IndieNewsNow.com. This is the website that I created to support and amplify independent media. From Derek Bros to Anti-War to Greg Reese and the Reese Report, Left Voice. This is completely ad-free, commercial-free. I make nothing from it. I'm just trying to do it to amplify and find a central place to find all the news that we would need to find from vetted independent sources that are ad-free and corporate-free. So you can go here. There's even a link for this stream from tonight. Okay, JP Font is on there. And let's see, this is Robin Qureshi. I like her stuff. We brought a couple of her articles. Andy Worthington, another Indie Media Award honoree. You'll see a lot of those here. All right, and a lot of their videos as well. All right. So, and then the merch store, finally. You can pick up an Indie News Now t-shirt at INN Merch Store. And again, you can get there by going here and clicking on the merch link at the top. Or if you go to the Keep the News Free section, that's where you can leave a tip. And there's actually a link here also to get to the latest merch store as well. And you can pick up the t-shirt, which is $23. This is the ladies version in black. All right, $23, and it's available in a bunch of different sizes. So pick up your Indie News Now t-shirt or any of the INN merch at the Indie News shop. Wow, that was a lot. Again, thank you everyone for sticking with me as I read through the first half of that Whitney Webb article, which took an hour and a half. Steve joked this morning on AM Wake Up that it would be a 7.5 hour show if I were to read through the whole article. And I was joking about it, but, joking that I thought I could get it down to an hour. I guess not, guys, but we'll be back next week with the other half of that, I promise. I definitely do want to read the other half of where Wexner's going with that. Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate you hanging out. And again, fuck Israel. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. All right. I love you all, and we'll see you next Tuesday. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? She said I can't turn my phone off, or the world stops and it's all my fault. And I don't go in airplane mode, cause they know when the flight takes off. And I thought I was born for the storm, but tonight I wish the rain would stop. I wish the rain would stop. She said it feels like another day, but I can't say, cause I can't stay long. I'm not here, but I'm not gone. She said it feels like another day, but I can't say, cause I can't stay long. I'm not gone. Not here, but I'm not gone. Love, I know I'm right, so I won't waste time to deny my doubts. And I just wanna know what's on your mind, but the Wi-Fi's out. And I know you were born for the storm, but I just need a break in the clouds. Just a break in the clouds. She said it feels like another day, but I can't say, cause I can't stay long. I'm not here, but I'm not gone. She said it feels like another day, but I can't say, cause I can't stay long. I'm not here, but I'm not gone. Not here, but I'm not gone. I think I'm the same as what I create. I gave it my name to speak for me. And then it wanted a face. I showed it my face, as good as my face could look for me. Filter every smile, add it every day. Just cut it out, paste. She said it feels like another day, but I can't say, cause I can't stay long. I'm not here, but I'm not gone.
She said it feels like another day, but I can't stay, 'cause I can't stay long. I'm not here, but I'm not gone. Oh, I'm not here, but I'm not gone. Oh, I'm not here, but I'm not gone. Not here, but I'm not gone. La 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 la. We'll take a stroll through where there used to be a neighborhood. I host a clinic called The Finer Points of Settlerhood. Wish I could say it brings a pride.